Welcome to Decoded Daily. This deep dive is brought to you by IdeaData. It seems like AI is everywhere these days.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it?
Every day there's a new headline about it changing the world, especially when it comes to the future of work,
Absolutely. And it can be overwhelming, right?
Totally. So for this deep dive, you brought a ton of articles all about AI, the future of work, and new technologies.
Yeah, I dug up some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, well, our mission today is to kind of cut through all the noise, figure out what our listeners really need to know about these tools, how they might impact their lives, professionally, personally, all that.
Right, make it practical, make it relevant. I like it.
Okay, so let's unpack this. First up, let's talk about AI's role in product development. There's this one article from Decoded.com. It highlighted how AI is becoming like a cornerstone of business, impacting everything, from customer experiences to strategic decision making.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to see how it's being used in product development specifically. We're not just talking about automating simple tasks, right? This is AI that's being used to analyze these huge data sets, identify patterns, and even generate new product ideas.
Whoa, okay, so hold on. Imagine a world where AI can predict, the next hot product.
Exactly.
Before anyone even thinks of it. Wild.
That's what we're talking about.
But what does this mean for the people who actually work in product development? I mean, are robots coming for their jobs?
That's the question everyone's asking. But I think it's more nuanced than that. What we're likely to see is a shift in the types of skills that are most valuable. Think of it as AI augmenting human capabilities, not necessarily replacing them.
Okay, so instead of fueling AI, we should be thinking about how to work alongside it.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, now speaking of AI kind of taking over all work, Space had this piece about Google developing AI to actually control your internet browsing. It's called Project Jarvis, and it sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
Right. It does, doesn't it? The idea is that it would automate online tasks, like scheduling appointments or even making purchases.
Well,
So it could potentially save us a ton of time, boost our efficiency. But it also raises some, pretty important questions about data privacy and control.
totally, yeah. I mean, who gets to decide what the AI prioritizes? What if it makes decisions that aren't really in our best interest? I mean, this technology, it could be incredibly helpful, but it's also a little unnerving, right?
Exactly. It's a great example of how we need to be thinking critically about these new tools and, developing some ethical frameworks for their use.
Now, let's talk about the skills gap. Several articles,
Yeah.
including one from KOAA, talked about the growing need for apprenticeships and reskilling programs, in this age of AI.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. The way we work is changing so rapidly. Traditional education systems are often, struggling to keep up. But apprenticeships, reskilling programs, these offer a more hands-on practical approach to learning that's directly relevant to, what industries need today.
Yeah, KOAA mentioned this career fair in Colorado Springs, specifically focused on apprenticeships. Sounds like these programs are really gaining traction.
But they are, and it's not just about learning specific technical skills, right? It's about critical thinking, problem solving, adaptability, skills that are going to be essential no matter what happens with AI.
So it's not just about learning a specific skill, it's about learning how to learn.
Exactly.
Okay, so with all this talk about AI and automation, this article from SHRM really got me thinking about human capital, investing in people. Even with the rise of AI, wouldn't you say that's more important than ever?
100%. AI can do a lot, but it can't replicate those uniquely human qualities. Things like creativity, emotional intelligence, complex problem solving. So investing in human capital means fostering, a culture of continuous learning, upskilling your employees, creating an environment where people feel valued.
So it's not an either-or situation. It's about finding that balance, right?
Exactly. The companies that will be successful in the future, they're going to be the ones that can figure out how to leverage AI while also nurturing their workforce.
Now, speaking of thriving workforces, this All Workspace article talked about AI's impact on company culture and employee engagement, which, as AI becomes more integrated into our workplaces, that's a big deal.
It is, and it's something that often gets overlooked, right? Because while AI has this potential to, improve employee well-being, It needs to be implemented in a thoughtful way. I mean, think about it. You could use AI-powered tools to personalize learning experiences, give real-time feedback, or even spot signs of burnout early on.
So AI could actually help create a more positive work environment.
It definitely could. But again, it all comes down to how it's implemented, right?
Yeah.
We have to make sure that AI is actually benefiting employees, not undermining them.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to keep in mind. And you know what? We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have, and there's still so much more to talk about.
So much more to explore. Yeah.
I want to go back to something we touched on earlier, investing in human capital. It's so important to remember that technology, powerful as it is, should really just complement what we do, augment our abilities, not, completely replace us.
Yeah, finding that synergy between human ingenuity and all these crazy advancements is key. And speak of advancements, this article from All Work Space really caught my eye. It talked about how generative AI, is pushing the boundaries of automation even further.
Oh yeah, generative AI. It's a total game changer. See, unlike traditional AI, which focuses on, analyzing existing data, generative AI can create new content, new designs. It can even write code.
Wait, hold on. So we're talking AI that can write articles, compose music, design websites?
Pretty much, yeah. It's really pushing the limits of what we thought was possible.
It sounds almost too good to be true.
And the applications are huge. Imagine like a marketing team using generative AI to create personalized ad campaigns for thousands of customers, all at the same time.
But what about the people? Would that put marketers out of work?
It's a valid concern, definitely. But I think what we'll see is a change in what those jobs look like. Not necessarily the jobs disappearing altogether. Marketers will need to adapt, learn how to use these new tools. Their roles might shift more towards strategy, creativity, human connection, while the AI handles all the repetitive, data-driven tasks.
So humans and AI work together to achieve more.
Exactly. Collaboration, not competition. Now, switching gears a bit, another big topic that kept coming up in a lot of these articles was remote work. The pandemic really accelerated this whole trend.
Oh, big time. I mean, some companies are calling people back to the office, but it seems like remote work is here to stay, at least in some form, right? There was a TechCrunch article that talked about how HR leaders are really grappling with this whole thing.
It's a whole new world for a lot of companies.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to manage a distributed workforce, keep the company culture going, making sure people are collaborating and feeling good about their work, even when they're not in the same physical space. It's tough.
And then you have to think about the cybersecurity concerns with remote work, especially with AI in the mix.
Right, absolutely. This Spiceworks article I read really emphasized how important it is for remote workers to have strong security measures in place because they can be much more vulnerable to cyber attacks.
That makes sense. More people working from home, accessing company data on their own devices, that opens up a lot of new vulnerabilities.
Exactly. And as AI becomes more integrated into everything we do, cybersecurity becomes even more critical. AI can be used both defensively and offensively in the cyber world.
So it's like a double-edged sword.
Companies need to invest in really robust cybersecurity measures, including AI-powered tools for threat detection and prevention, and employees need to be educated about staying safe online. That's key.
Okay, so we've talked about AI's impact on product development, generative AI, the changing landscape of remote work, the importance of cybersecurity. What else? What other trends should we be thinking about when we look at the future of work?
Well, a few things are emerging that are worth noting. One is this growing focus on sustainability and social responsibility. Companies are starting to realize they need to be good corporate citizens, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's what attracts and keeps good employees.
It's true. Especially younger generations, they really seem to want to work for companies that align with their values.
Exactly. And AI can actually play a role in this too. It can be used to track and measure environmental impact, identify areas where a company can improve, even automate some sustainability initiatives.
So AI can actually be a force for good in the world, not just for profit.
Absolutely. It all depends on how we use it, right? Another important trend is this emphasis on lifelong learning. With technology changing so fast, what you learn today might be outdated in a few years.
It can be a little intimidating, to be honest. How do you keep up with that pace of change?
You have to be proactive. Actively seek out new knowledge and skills, online courses, workshops, even just reading industry publications. Staying curious and being willing to adapt is key.
So it's not just about what you know now, it's about your ability to learn new things, adapt to new technologies.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of human connection. AI can automate a lot, but it can't replace things like empathy, creativity, critical thinking. Those are uniquely human skills, and they'll always be valuable.
So again, it's about that balance. balance, leveraging the power of technology while also honing those essential human skills. Seems to be the theme that keeps coming up.
You got it. The people who are going to thrive in the future of work are the ones who can figure out how to blend the best of both worlds.
Okay.
Adapting, learning, collaborating, all while making the most of new technologies.
It's been a really insightful conversation. But with all this talk about AI and the potential impact, I'm sure some of our listeners are feeling a little anxious. It's a lot to take in.
It's natural to feel that way. Change can be scary, especially when it comes to something as fundamental as work. But I really believe that AI will create more opportunities than it eliminates.
That's reassuring. But how will it create more opportunities when so many people are worried about being replaced by robots?
Think about it. By automating routine tasks, AI will free us up to focus on more creative work, things that are more strategic, more fulfilling. It'll also lead to new jobs that we can't even imagine yet. It's about shifting our perspective, being open to new possibilities.
So seeing AI as a tool to help us achieve more, not something that's going to take over.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that the future isn't set in stone. We're creating it through the choices we make. If we have a growth mindset, stay curious, actively participate in shaping the future of work, we can make sure it's a future that works for everyone. It's a team effort.
That's a really powerful message.